And indeed, as Brent said, unfortunately, our cheetah are very much on their way into Mala Mala. They are standing on the boundary as we speak. But we have been incredibly fortunate to spend as much time as we have. Luckily for us, unlike most of the other safari vehicles, is of course we have the camera with the incredible capacity to zoom in. Hey, Dave, so we don't have to disappear anywhere. We can stick with them. They just stopped for a moment to spend a little bit of time resting on the road, and who can blame them? With those enormous bellies, I wouldn't be planning on moving anywhere anytime soon. And there we go, cheetah watering the plains of Cheetah Plains, marking their territory. And as I said, they have regular marking spots. Watch this, now the other male's going to do it. Or not? Come on, boy. Setting a bad example. But actually that does give us an interesting insight into the behavior of cheetah males as they mark territories, because they take turns to mark the separate boundaries and the sort of the separate objects. So one of them will go and mark one tree, the other one will go and mark the next tree, and so on. Which makes total sense, because of course saving up your stock of urine, with the two of you sort of spreading it out, you'll go twice as far. What a beautiful view. I'm still absolutely flabbergasted by those bellies. I really genuinely, I'm not joking, I have never seen such a fat cheetah in my life. They are so well fed, which of course is wonderful. Oh, James, I didn't realize that. I actually hadn't properly looked at into their eyes. And James apparently has noticed that one of these cheetah brothers has what looks to be a cataract. And he wanted to know whether or not that is related to age or if it is related to an injury. Just bear with me one moment. We're going to just catch up with them. Well, no, we're not. We're going to go and watch them as they walk further south along the boundary. James, I honestly don't know. And actually it would be relatively impossible to tell in terms of what has actually happened to them. I've been looking at their canines because earlier on I was asked a question as to how old these cheetah might be. And of course we don't know for certain. I haven't had a chance to get to know them properly. But I've been trying to look at their canines and they don't seem to be that old in terms of the wear and tear on their teeth. Perhaps I need to have another look. But it could be injury related. But I have seen young predators, young cats. I'm thinking particularly about a lion that I was once involved in the capture of. Capture for a good reason, not a bad reason. Capture to move it to a separate population so that it could breed with them. Who had a cataract at 3 years old. So I honestly don't know the answer to that, James. And I hadn't realized one of them had a cataract. But that is a very, very distinctive feature. Sad to see them go, but happy that we got to see them. And I was actually going to talk about it was the next sentence on my lips in terms of the cataract and identifying individual cheetah. Laura and Bob, you wanted to know, since we use spot patterns to identify leopards, how do we go about identifying cheetah? And the answer is you can use their whisker spots. Much like in lions and in leopards, it is unique to each and every cheetah, although the top row of spot patterns isn't necessarily as clear. However, one of the ways that I do it is actually essentially exactly the same way as I personally identify individual leopards. And that is the fact that their spot patterns are like fingerprints. They are completely unique to each and every individual. And you can look at them exactly the same. So whether it's the spot patterns on the bottoms, as is the view that they are currently presenting us with, or their sides or their shoulders, you just look for some of the dominant big spots. And you slowly but surely, it's not as easy as leopards, I have to say. Again, that's because of the lack of genetic diversity in a cheetah population. So it's not as easy as leopards, but you can learn to identify individual cheetah by their spot patterns. Like hyena as well. Very, very similar way of doing things. You just have to look really closely, and it usually involves the use of pictures, which is something I used to do where I used to work, because we had 6 cheetah that we saw regularly: Babalo and Lesedi, 2 males, and then Songo and Sanana, also 2 males, and then 2 females, Naledi and Kusala. And we learned eventually to identify each and every single individual cheetah. Don't go, come back. They are such beautiful cats. I mentioned earlier that it is fantastic to see them with such round bellies, and we've spoken at length about the fact that a cheetah as a species is a relatively unsuccessful one. And Sean, you wanted to know what their success rate in terms of hunting is compared to lions. And the answer to that is that their success rate is less than that of a lion. It's area dependent, of course, and it's prey density dependent. There's a lot of factors that will determine a predator's success rate. But for the most part, a cheetah, that's an inconvenient place for you to lie down. Oh, luckily this one's continuing. You're probably looking at around less than 20% of hunts initiated actually result in kills, which is really tough, especially for the female cheetah with their cubs. There's so much out here that is a threat to them. And in terms of the predator hierarchy, cheetahs sit right at the bottom. They really are, as a species, not particularly resilient. Just a couple of things to remark upon before our cheetah disappear. First of all, look at the color of their eyes and how dark they are. And then also look at the tear tracks that run along in the inside of each eye. And that, of course, is a product of the fact that they are diurnal hunters rather than nocturnal ones. So much like sports stars sort of paint the dark paint along their cheeks to reduce the glare, that's exactly why a cheetah have those markings. Hi, Jamie. Sorry, I'm not just saying hello to myself, by the way. There is actually another guide called Jamie. I haven't completely lost my marbles.